Today's date is April 9th, 2018. Hello and welcome to another episode of Hit the Books Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Holcomb.
And I'm Emery Saunders.
And we're here to give you all the saucy deets on everything comics this week. For those of you unfamiliar with the show, this is your weekly comic book podcast where Emery and I, and perhaps a guest, go through the latest news, the new comic book releases from your local comic book shops,
Please support your local comic book shops.
and discuss some topics about the world of comics for your amusement. If that sounds like a good time, be sure to hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and rate well elsewhere. It really does help us out and push us closer to our future goals of our vanity URL.
So people can more easily find us.
And obviously help spread the community around.
Oh, yeah. Tell your friends.
You can always like us on YouTube, on Stitcher, and on iTunes. Be sure to check out our website, htbvids.com, where you can find all the links to all of those things, as well as plenty of other written content and lists. If you go to our homepage, like all the links are right there. You just click the button and it takes you right to the Stitcher feed or the iTunes feed or the YouTube channel, whichever one you're looking for. And it's very convenient, so please use it. There's no ads, so you're not going to be harassed by a bunch of computer aids.
Oh, thank God.
When you go to our website to try to find these links. So
Yeah.
whatever your preferred service is, it's all on there for you.
Oh, yeah. And more outlets coming as, we further stretch our reach.
Yeah, there's some announcements coming up soon. It's just a matter of getting everything together logistically so we can put it out to the world.
Oh, yes.
But we don't want to say it yet because we don't want people to steal our shit
Oh, yeah. No.
and then charge us a premium to get it back.
Oh, no. No. This is going to be ours.
So
So, more coming soon.
if that sounds like a good time, be sure to stick around. Hang out with us during the podcast. Look at our other videos, our reviews, our instructional videos. You can go to our website. Go to htbvids.com/a-year 2017-2018 to see our previous comic books of the week and variants of the week and all that nonsense. So you can find all that content on the website and then stretch out from there. And if you feel so inclined and you feel very generous and kind, you can go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/hitthebooks, and you can contribute to us on Patreon. It's a public contribution service, totally on, donation honor basis. If you don't want to contribute, that's just fine. We're happy to have you in our audience. But if you would like to contribute and you are able, please, if you even have to consider it financially, don't contribute.
Right. This is basically a tip jar for us. If you like us enough, maybe think of us as a entertainment version of your local barista, but in a comics and comic book related media form.
Yeah. As you can imagine, all this stuff is costly and it adds up to quite a sum at the end of the day based on all the comics we have to buy and the editing software and the website service and the server service to host all of our podcasts and our MP3s, and it adds up over time. So it'd be great if we could even break even. So any help you can give would be much appreciated, but if you can't contribute, you being a viewer or listener is contribution enough, and we really appreciate you. So
Yes.
feel free to check that out. Again, you can find it on our website, htbvids.com. Just click the button, or you can go to the Patreon page directly through patreon.com/hitthebooks. Now, Emery, what have you been reading?
Well, I actually got to read a few comics this week. I have been keeping up with Rogue and Gambit, which is an X title that...
Triple X?
Hot. They wish.
Aw.
It's a title that I've been keeping up with because there's always going to be a part of me that is a fanboy of those two characters because I grew up with them in the 90s.
Of course.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the 90s X-Men cartoon, watch it.
It's good.
Yeah, and this one, the latest issue 4, is one that took a very weird turn.
Uh-oh. Well, the last issue had them fighting replicants of themselves.
Yes. This issue shows the ramifications of what happens when you actually kill one of those golems, as they referred to.
Interesting.
Or not golems as in Gollum from Lord of the Rings. And I should have said golem to be more specific.
You fucking nerd.
Look, I gotta get it right. It's weird when you're fighting a bunch of yourself. It's even weirder when you are fighting the other person's copy and you kill it, and you weirdly get not only that other person's part of their powers, but also part of their memories as well. That's what happens in this one.
Marvel just needs to stop.
Yes.
You already screwed up your canon. Stop trying to recover it. Let it go.
We don't need to further get weird. We really don't. And that's what that issue did. It just further got weird.
Great.
It just seemed like an extension of the let's put these two characters through therapy. And it's a weird way of still continuing to do that same thing.
Okay.
And I swear to God, if the last issue is the whole thing actually being something that they did while you were sleeping, and it's all like you were actually just going through therapy, and that's it, I swear to God, I'm going to shit a goddamn brick. And ask, why did you waste my time with something that could have been just 2 issues? And then I realized they're putting Gambit on X-Men Red. Oh.
You're gonna buy it.
I'm gonna buy it,
I know
and I'm gonna read it, and
You
I'm
can't help
going.
yourself.
I'm going to try really hard not to be immediately judgmental because the art style's already kind of throwing me off.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, I don't know who is running the X titles, but there's a lot of steps in the. We're just trying to not fix the characters, as in we're going to take all of their narrative issues and, put them back on track. It feels like we're trying to fix these characters, as in we're trying to put all of these characters through therapy and become more self-aware and less, flawed.
Because that's what I want to read when I read a superhero book.
Right.
Therapy sessions.
No! God.
That sounds like a fun thriller,
Oh.
but I digress. What else have you read?
I actually got to read the latest issue of Spawn. Spawn number 284.
Now, should we put this on our Did the Content Match the Drapes segment, since it won the variant of the week last week?
I'm going to say not quite yet, mostly because this issue is in the middle of an ongoing story.
Okay.
That I have not in any way, shape, or form kept up to date on, much to my dismay, because I love this character.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for the content matching the drapes, we're going to hold off on that.
Okay.
And come back to that later. I got a lot of Spawn to catch up on. And after reading that, I read the latest issue of the vaunted, the hallowed, the soon-to-be legendary Batman White Knight. The story we've all needed.
It's so good.
The story we don't deserve. It's so good.
It's still so good.
Oh,
It is still, to date, my favorite Batman story, and it still has 1 issue left, I believe.
Yes.
God, it's so good.
Oh,
Batman White Knight is so damn good. If you have even the most, fleeting interest in Batman,
or any of the related characters therein.
you need to be reading this. It
Yes.
is so damn good. Sean Gordon Murphy just... I don't know if he had this whole story outlined and ready before they began the artwork and stuff, like we would hope,
Yeah, yes.
because it hasn't had any major delays. It has been consistently great and well written and refined, and just like the artwork's great. Like, I just don't see how you can really do it much better. It has been fantastic from beginning to end, and it's just, not only is it great, but it's like a love letter to all Batman fans,
It is.
both old and new. It is just amazing. It is so good. I can't sing its praises enough. You need to be reading this book. If you are not reading this book, what are you doing with your life?
Right.
If you are listening to this podcast and you are not reading Batman White Knight, you are wasting your fucking time. Read this book!
There's short of a miracle happening right before your eyes, or, having children, there's literally nothing more worth your time
It is so
than
good.
reading Batman White Knight.
It is so good, and it is worth every penny of the cost. You need to buy this book. You need to support this book. You need to read this book. You need to love this book. You need to hang this book.
You need to sound off on every form of social media there is.
It is so good, and I think people are missing it because it's not like main canon. It's,
Right.
Elseworlds type thing.
Yeah,
But
it's its own story.
if you're skipping out on it, you're doing yourself a great disservice.
Oh,
And it is the best thing coming out of DC right now, hands down.
it literally manages to take almost every facet that you can think of this character.
Yep.
And not only completely turn it on its head, but still at every moment remind you that we know exactly what this title is.
Yeah. And it does something that I think a lot of Batman books struggle to do. It makes Batman himself actually interesting and not just the villains. There's actually some real depth to what Batman is doing and going through, and his whole like mental process with everything, and not just the support characters and the villains, which typically is the case with Batman books. You just have the
Right.
kind of generic can do no wrong Batman, and then a bunch of villains that are way more interesting, but basically make the book great.
This is actually something that not even the Batman movies, I'm going to go as far as to say not even the Nolan trilogy, not even the Dark Knight did as well of a job making Batman the interesting character in this whole thing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
I can't read this book. I
Yes.
can't, there's nothing more I can say. You need to read this book.
I will spoil nothing because it deserves your genuine surprise.
And to our video viewers, I apologize if I keep wincing and like shaking my arm. I think I tore my rotator cuff during my last workout
Oh.
and my last gym trip, and it's really stinging when I put it in certain positions, and I don't expect it. So I apologize. It's not the discussion that's hurting me. It's the shoulder issues.
The thing that's hurting me is that this comic is not nearly as recognized as it should be.
No, everybody should be advertising this book. Like, all these fucking events and the Dark Knight stuff and the No Justice thing that's coming up, like, all of that can just be put to the side for now. You need to prioritize Batman White Knight. That is what matters in the DC universe right now.
I'm pretty sure the entirety of the Dark Knight's Metal event is not as good as the first issue of Batman White Knight.
No. I can confirm this. As we go into what I've read this time, I actually read a lot of stuff, trying to finally fulfill my promise of catching up. I still haven't caught up on everything, because we still need to catch up on Aquaman and all the other stuff that we had covers of the week for and whatnot.
It's a lot to catch up on.
It's a lot. But obviously, I read Batman White Knight also, because it's great. And then I finally caught up on the Dark Knight's Metal run, 1 through 6, because the final issue just came out not too long ago, and everything in the DC canon right now is connected to the Dark Knight's Metal tie-in stuff. Which is dumb. It's just it's completely unnecessary. that you have to read this one dumb event just to get the context for everything else. And quite frankly, even the event doesn't explain a whole lot. Like, you have to read like every single little tie-in, you know, Batman the Devastator and Batman the Drowned and Batman Lost and, you know, Dark Knight's metal tie-in for Nightwing and Dark Knight's metal tie-in for Justice League and Dark Knight's metal tie-in for everything else. It's fucking stupid. Please stop.
What if Batman but a clown? What if Batman but Barry Allen? What if Batman but wet? What if Batman but a lady? Wait a minute. I think we've answered that one.
It's just an excuse to put all of the Justice League in a bat costume. It really is. That's all it is. But
oh my God, that sounds like... Oh, God, I'm imagining something that reminds me of a Bryan Singer X-Men movie.
there's a lot of dumb. So let me get into it.
Okay.
Now, is it bad? I would say the main line 1 through 6 books are not bad. They're just meh. and there's a lot of dumb. There's a lot of dumb, like, leaps of faith and logic.
A lot of dumb, a lot of meh.
A lot of meh. And
a lot of this is the way it is because we say so.
yeah. And I hate to criticize any artist, but Greg Capullo, who is a great artist in his own right, he has a very unique style. I think anytime he has to do anything dark and menacing, which is ironic since he's been working on Batman for so long.
Yeah.
His style just doesn't adhere to it very well. And I think it's never been more present than in the Dark Knight's Metal books, where I was reading it, as I was reading it, I just kept being pulled out of it because the characters look so cartoony and silly. And these like menacing, dark, gothic contexts and, you know, end of the world-esque situations.
Yeah.
But all the characters have like a big button nose and like a big round face, and it just doesn't, something about it looks more like, you know, a Saturday morning, you know, like Looney Tunes cartoon or something. Like,
yeah.
It's just, it doesn't fit the aesthetic that he's going for in this story. And I think Greg Capullo is a fantastic artist, really great artist. I'm not criticizing his art or his style. I just don't think his style is a match with this particular story, and I felt the same way about a few other things he's done with Scott Snyder there.
Yeah.
And Scott Snyder, likewise, I really love his writing. He's a great writer. The dialogue in this book is good. It's really good, and there's like narration throughout all of it, and the narration, you can kind of see the threads of what he was trying to do. He's trying to make like a big, all-encompassing, all tying in end to his Batman run, which he has been working on since the New 52, the first issue of the New 52, where he had the Court of Owls and Death of the Family, and then he had the Endgame event, and obviously all the tie-ins in between, and Year Zero.
Yeah.
He's had all of these tie-ins, and he's done a great job with, I'd say, about 90% of it. He's had a really great like hit to miss ratio, and I think this one, for all the things he did right, and the dialogue and the narration and the way that Greg Capullo framed all the panels and everything and the order the story was told and everything, I think they were just going for too much, because this book, it relies on you to know every single little bit of canon since before Flashpoint.
Oh my God!
It addresses like little tiny things that have happened before Flashpoint as a reference for like all the shit that's going on in this book, and it's just like, even as a very avid reader, a very up to date, I would say for the most part, comic fan.
Yeah,
like as up to date as you can ever expect from an adult reader. There's just so much nonsense going on, and I mean, everybody shows up in this. Like, everybody you could imagine is in some way, shape, or form in this book. Even people like Sandman, like,
Holy shit.
which explains why there's a new Sandman book coming out. I think this book has been used as a platform for all of the new things that are going to be changing in the future, including the reintroduction of Sandman, including the new era of DC heroes, including the return of characters like Hawkman, and Hawkwoman or Hawkgirl, whichever one you go with, in this new universe context, post-convergence and divergence. And quite honestly, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. I don't think anything in that book made sense. And again, there are tons of leaps of faith, and this isn't really an issue with the book itself. This is just my personal gripe. I hate when these like overwhelming, like big, like epic stories explain everything.
Yeah.
Like, we know basically the ins and outs of how the multiverse works now. We know the origins of everything now with this event. We know
Wow.
what the role of the Anti-Monitor is and what the role of, people like Darkseid is. Again, you have to read the fucking all the canon up to recently, including the Darkseid Wars and stuff, to know what's going on. Way too much. Way too much to put on the reader.
Darkseid doesn't do. Darkseid is.
It makes Themyscira.
From a better book.
Yeah, it reintroduces Themyscira in a different way that's like...
Reintroduces Themyscira?
Kind of nonsense. Themyscira is no longer just a planet. It's now like an interdimensional thing that is in all of the multiverse, but it's like hidden in like a pocket dimension type thing. And yeah.
Oh no.
It's real dumb.
No.
I'm sorry, Scott, but I know that the convergence event didn't leave you much room to work with, but I just didn't.
Oh.
There's a lot of things I didn't like, and like it brings Martian Manhunter back into the fold, which is necessary. He's been missed for a long time, but it's done in like a very dumb, like nonsensical way. Like, why would he be doing this? Why would he be there in the first place? That doesn't make any sense unless I'm missing some part of canon that's totally out of context,
Why wouldn't we just say he was gone for a while,
Yeah.
but now he's back?
And I think this whole book was meant to be like not only a send-off and a proper goodbye to Snyder's Batman runs and his work with DC up to this point, as like kind of a farewell to the partnership with him and Greg Capullo, but also the launch pad for all the new ideas they're trying to like introduce and all the fixes, I would say, they're trying to do after they kind of screwed up Convergence, I would say. And all the convoluted timeline, but all they did was make it more convoluted and more nonsensical. And like the whole like Batman night villain things from the Dark universe. There's no it's clearly illustrated that there's like evil versions of everybody in every form, because the anti-universe or whatever is basically built on like the fears of all the heroes and everybody on the other universes. So if Batman feared he might, become paranoid and weaponize himself to defeat Superman, but then loses control and becomes like modifying what's his name? Big Hulk guy. The
Damage?
Doomsday.
Doomsday.
No, not Damage.
Great.
He modifies
big
himself
Hulk.
with the like Doomsday genes to try to stop Superman, but then ends up destroying everything in the process. It's like those types of paranoia that birthed those versions in the Dark universe. That's how it's explained.
God.
And so your thoughts and fears are basically a creation in that universe. But they make it very clear in like issue 4 or 5 that every other character's versions of those fears exist. So I don't understand why the Bat ones were the only ones that showed up to do anything.
Because only the Bat ones survived.
They're there. They're just in the dark side, just like hanging out.
Oh my God!
But,
why?
But yeah.
This sounds like something that belongs in the fucking Snyderverse.
Yeah, and then like the final solution in the end is 10th metal. I play on nth metal, which is
son of a bitch.
The 9th metal because of a certain purity or whatever. It's very convoluted and very dumb. But the metal basically like disappears for no reason. Like they solve the problem and then like the metal's just not there. Like they don't address it, they don't talk about it. They just say, "Oh, the metal has a mind of its own. It does whatever." And I'm like, "Mystic bullshit metal. Thank you. That's the explanation for all this. That was the final solution." Bullshit.
Okay, we got that once with fucking Vibranium over at Marvel. We really didn't need that shit in DC.
Yeah. And they did the thing I hate where they like make the character like be in this pocket dimension or whatever for 30, 40 years, and like Batman and Superman are both old and been tortured for all of this time or whatever. But then they just miraculously become young again once they get back. It's like without explanation. Again, these are you got to understand, this is as comic booky silly as you can possibly imagine. And I don't know whose hands were all in the pot. I suspect Scott Snyder wasn't making all of it. I have feelings that there was things being forced in there to introduce new concepts.
I'm almost certain that the studio had a lot of direction that they were giving him.
Yeah. I mean, they literally bring out a physical map of the multiverse, which is the same one you see in like the comic posters they were giving out during Multiversity and stuff. Like that's how like dumb and in depth they go. And I'm like, why would this one world have this map of the entire multiverse and how everything works? And like
how would this one world within the multiverse be able to perceive all of these things enough to make a map?
Yeah. And I also didn't understand why the main villain was literally just a giant bat version of Spectre. Like, why did he need to be like, this guy has clearly existed before Batman was ever even conceived of. Like, he's been around for billions of years, but for some reason he took the form of a bat.
One of these days we're going to make a GIF of me flipping this goddamn table.
So I'll leave that with you. In terms of going back a long time, let's see here, episode 4, the variant cover of the week for episode 4. Did the content match the drapes? No, I'm sorry. The Jim Lee variant for that #1 issue was great, but I think the book was just meh. I don't know. I know people like individual issues, like the issue that explains the Joker-fied version or whatever, but I think that's just because it was relying on a gimmick, quite honestly.
Yeah.
It was just an excuse to do something menacing with Batman.
Yes, let's make Batman more gimpy and more of a clown? Wait a minute.
Yeah. So, I mean, and again, there's no explanation for why that one is the one leading everything on the initial onslaught and like basically the lieutenant of the big bad god guy. Because the other ones are obviously like way smarter and way stronger. It just seems like just an excuse to draw a Joker-fied Robin and Batman.
Yeah, it seems like that the company will never stop having its heart on for everything Batman, Joker, and Robin.
Yeah, so take that as you will. If you've read it and you enjoyed it, more power to you. Tell me why I'm wrong, because I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of good things to take from it, and I felt like all it did was just make things even more convoluted and unnecessarily, I don't know, corny.
It's just yet another event to try to push new stuff.
Yep. I jumped into Old Man Hawkeye #3, keeping the Old Man Hawkeye book going, and the book is still great. It's still really fun, really interesting. This one, he addresses Atlas and has some interactions with Atlas. So if you're not reading Old Man Hawkeye and you want to read something that's in that kind of Old Man Logan world with like a well-written story and great artwork, pick this book up. It's really cool. You want some backstory to that version of Hawkeye, it's a great book to pick up.
I really want that story to be good enough to where they actually finally make a Hawkeye movie, and it's kind of like in the same like level as Logan.
It'd be hard to do, since if you read Old Man Logan, what happens with his daughter?
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think you could have quite that type of story with Hawkeye.
Well, it would be a way to, one, do a Hawkeye story finally, but also at the same time differentiate yourself from Logan, which
Sure.
Logan was a good story, but Hawkeye has a good story in him too.
Mm-hmm.
We just got to find it.
Since he shoots a bow and arrow. Other than that, you know.
It's never about the bow and arrow.
It's kind of about the bow and arrow. But yeah, Old Man Hawkeye #3. It's great. Pick it up, read it. I would recommend it to anybody who's even remotely familiar with the Old Man Logan storyline.
Oh, yeah.
I picked up a few #1s. Oh, before I get into it, I just want to say to make sure I wasn't getting the wrong context and trying to place exactly where this old man Hawkeye occurs, I went back and reread the whole run of the original Old Man Logan from Mark Millar. Man, is that book still great. It still holds up so well. It is so damn good. I love it.
It's also really, really gross.
It's pretty gross, yeah. There's some gross parts, especially in the end there. The last 2 issues or whatever. But yeah, that whole run is so good. So damn good. That is a great book, and if you haven't read it, you should read it.
Oh, yeah.
Next up, I read a few number ones. The first one being Sonic the Hedgehog, number 1 from IDW, because I'm a Sonic fan, and I like Sonic, and I don't give a shit if you don't like Sonic, because Sonic is cool.
Gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast. And the issue was, it was good. It was what you expect from, a kid's book. So if you have some kids and you think they'd like Sonic, you should pick it up for them. It's really fun. Tails and Sonic do their dynamic duo thing in response to a mystery that's arising from attacks on the local towns from the Batnik robots.
Yeah, you had me at Sonic the Hedgehog.
But yeah, it's pretty good. Next one. This one is part of the new era of DC heroes, but doesn't seem in any way, shape, or form to be connected to Dark Knight's Metal, thankfully. The Curse of Brimstone, number 1. This one we laughed about because we thought it was going to be like just a, like the Terrifics was a Fantastic Four ripoff and Damage is a Hulk ripoff. We thought it was just going to end up being like a Ghost Rider ripoff. I would say it's not. It actually has a lot of cool depth to it, and yes, there is the sort of devil character that kind of gives him like fire abilities, although spoilers, it doesn't really go into it yet because it's building up for the next issue.
Right.
But it was actually a really like down to earth kind of heartwarming tale, and the art was really good. The art kind of reminded me of the Sideways book, which was really good. And it talks about a story that really doesn't get addressed much, and particularly about like Appalachian coal mining areas where, the mines are pretty much the only source of work, and the factories relating to refining the coal and, using it for other products and shipping it and whatever else. And once those businesses go out of town, you're trapped because you don't have enough money to move. You can't afford to just pick up and leave and try to go to a city or something where there's better jobs, And so
you don't have a source of income.
Yeah, and a lot of people are disabled and hurt from working in dangerous mine jobs and factory jobs. If you're not familiar with what they go through, just look up some YouTube videos of what they do on a daily basis. Like it's not happy work. Like even now that in West Virginia, I know because of my relatives, there's a crisis going down there with black lung disease. And,
oh my God!
It's an emergency status, but because the coal industry is the only work there, they just kind of try to shove it under the rug. Because if some regulatory interest comes down and puts them out of business, then they have no job, and now they're dying and out of work, and just trapped in this mountainous area. And these are not like open areas where you can just walk from place to place. Like if you have not been to West Virginia, these are very, very isolated areas. These are very, very, particularly in southern West Virginia, very, very kind of hostile lands where it's just, if you don't have the benefit of electricity and all these supports, it is very hard to survive there. And the people that settled there initially were some very rugged individuals, usually running from some kind of persecution, including runaway slaves, including Turks and displaced Sephardic Jews, including Irish people that couldn't get land or jobs anywhere, and Revolutionary War soldiers that got displaced, because the government couldn't afford to pay them a war pension, so they gave them worthless land out in the mountains. Runaways from the Trail of Tears, all those sorts of things. These are what make up those Appalachian communities. And it takes a very desperate type of individual to settle those places, and it's kind of reflected in this book in a really cool way. So it tells a story I think gets ignored, especially in America, a lot. And it does. There is one line in there where it very much makes an allusion to like "Make America Great Again" type of thing. in the middle there.
Which is, I'm sure, something that you would think would be commonly found in a town like this.
And it very clearly illustrates that it's purely out of desperation and humanizes them in a way, but I think still is like this is the only reason you would ever do this,
Yeah.
But that it's very subtle, so it's not like it didn't pull me out of the issue or whatever, but I recognized and I was like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Let's get this over. But it's a really, really good book, and really I was very pleasantly surprised by the first issue. So I highly recommend Curse of the Brimstone. Very pleasant surprise from the new era of DC Heroes. And then the final issue I read was the new Robert Kirkman book. I picked it up, Oblivion #1.
Ooh.
Oblivion Song #1. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I didn't think the artwork was particularly great. And Robert Kirkman, if you're not familiar, he's written like The Walking Dead and Invincible and stuff. So he's got some stellar work in the past. So this was expected to be a big hit. And based on our news items, the sales numbers indicate that is the case. But it's
like, oh shit, Robert Kirkman.
The basic premise of the story is there is some kind of weird interdimensional cataclysmic event in the past. It's unclear how long ago it happened, but basically a bunch of people were just kind of transported to this kind of like demon realm version, like monster realm version of the Earth, and it's just like a handful of people, like 30 people, something like that. And basically, the government tried to make a program to go and retrieve them and use that same kind of crossing dimension ability. Again, nothing is really explained very well, but use this ability to try to recover some of the people. And they didn't really succeed, but there was like pocket programs that were still active. And the main character, his brother, was one of the people that went to the other side or whatever. So he basically is obsessed with going over there and trying to rescue people if he can find them before they get killed by the monsters and all the environment over there.
Yeah.
And it starts off with him rescuing 2 individuals, and they're all freaking out because they think he's hunting them, but really he's shooting them with these like interdimensional darts that'll transport them back to the real world. And then they have to deal with like the psychological issues when they get back of not being constantly hunted by monsters and stuff and surviving. And and then on another spectrum, on the Earth side, there's like religious zealots that think it's like God's wrath or whatever, and they're like, anytime somebody comes back, they target them and think that they're, like demons, that they're bringing back the demons, from God's wrath that the government needs to stop funding like his efforts to go and save these people. And because of funding issues, they just kind of give up, and they're afraid of making the problem worse of another event occurring because they keep jumping dimensions or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of threads here and there. I feel like the whole thing could just be solved by like a GoFundMe.
That is how you solve this issue.
Just start a GoFundMe with all the family members and anybody interested to donate, and like, all right, thanks, you funded my whole program, thanks. Instead of having to suck the government's dick to try to get $1.
Right.
But it was fine. I wasn't like super impressed, unfortunately. Unlike the first issue of Walking Dead and like Invincible. This one just didn't really strike me the way I was hoping it would. It's kind of a cool idea, but I feel like it's been done before, and I don't know. We'll see. I'll pick up the second issue and see if it gets better, if for nothing else because it's going to be collected because it's Robert Kirkman. But there's some threads there I really liked. There's some dialogue I really liked, and I like how they deal with like the psychological aspects of coming back.
Yeah.
And there's some good things. I just feel like there's a lot more explanation that was needed, and a little bit more backstory, even if it came in the form of like narration instead of dialogue.
Felt like you were kind of dropped in the middle.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like dialogue that's just unnatural, where they're trying to explain everything. So he's repeating a bunch of shit that everybody already knows,
right.
That sort of thing, where he's trying to make it natural, but it feels forced. And like, again, he's a great creator, so I'm not criticizing Robert Kirkman, and I'm sure it'll flesh out over time. But for that initial issue, it's just a little jarring and a little underwhelming.
Right.
So look for that if you're so interested in Robert Kirkman's work.
What's the title of that one again?
Oblivion Song.
Oblivion Song.
Yeah, and it's referencing like a certain type of noise that occurs when you're in the other dimension and the other world, whatever it is. Again, not really explained very well, but
Right.
whatever the thing is, when you're there, there's like a certain like natural noise that occurs, and that's one of the people that got saved from that side, who actually works in the program, addresses it as an Oblivion Song, and how it kind of like calmed him down when he was finally had a moment to rest, and he could just like not have to worry about the monsters hunting him and stuff. Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
There's a lot of great stuff to it. I don't want to dismiss it just yet, but I feel like it could have been done a little bit better and organized a little bit more clearly. So
The kind of thing you would pick up issue 2 to
yeah,
see if it's worth...
I'll probably pick up the next 2 issues and
Yeah.
just see if it grabs me, and if not, no big loss, because it's collectible and it's Robert Kirkman, and I like to support creators anyway. So
Oh, yeah.
look out for that. Now, we already covered the segment, did the content match the drapes. Dark Knight's Metal #1. Fortunately, the cover was great. The issue was meh. It was
Yeah.
I don't think it matched the drapes. So, with that, let's get into the news. First up, some Black Panther news. Black Panther has risen to the top 10 on the all-time global box office gross list
Ooh.
at $1.27 billion this weekend, passing Frozen. Now, it's worth noting that this is not adjusted for inflation whatsoever. It's just what it is right now as a gross product, and I think it's like number 10 globally.
Yeah, adjusted for inflation, I think he's in like the
1.27 billion right now.
He's in the low 50s for the all-time, which is no small feat.
Yeah. Half of that total was domestic, so a lot of home support in the United States. When adjusted for inflation, the movie ranks number 35 on the all-time box office list.
35. Ooh, it climbed.
But that's domestically.
Oh, that's domestic.
Because
right.
if you wanted to adjust for inflation internationally, you'd have to go through every single currency, and
right.
it's just
That's a bit
not
more
realistic.
Of a, yeah, that's a bit more of a calculation.
Nowhere I know of has actually done that, because I don't think it's possible. But when adjusted for inflation domestically, it's number 35. And the only superhero movies adjusted for inflation that are higher on the list are The Dark Knight at number 31 and The Avengers number 29. So that's pretty good, especially for a single hero book about a character that nobody ever gave a shit about prior to this. So really awesome to see. In addition, Black Panther is going to be the first movie shown at a public theater in Saudi Arabia since 1983. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, just another reminder to be thankful and protect your freedoms. Do not get rid of your freedom of speech or anything else, because this shit is important.
Right.
In 1983, Saudi Arabia banned public movie theaters and any kind of film displays in public areas. So, yeah, for the past 35 years, they have had nothing. You could have a home movie, I'm sure, but I'm sure even that was regulated to an extent.
How interesting that we finally get that, lifted.
Yeah.
And the first movie that's playing over there is Black Panther.
Very ironic. Secretive nation, a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
A lot of laws and restrictions.
If I hear or see anything about some guy running around in a Wildcat onesie, I swear to God.
But to be fair, I think Wakanda is probably a little bit more benevolent than Saudi Arabia. But
that remains to be seen. I mean, there was some court intrigue.
Yeah,
and
there's some royalty issues there.
Royalty backstabbing and all that.
Et tu, Brute.
Et tu.
But in December, the ban was lifted, and after building the theaters from AMC, it will premiere on April 18th. And then 5 days later, it will be replaced by Avengers Infinity War.
Oh, man.
That's quite a jump.
I wonder why.
So the first movie showing in 35 years is going to be Black Panther, and then 5 days later, you're getting Avengers Infinity War. That's one way to kick off your movie theater business.
Yeah, the reach of Marvel and Disney grows.
Yeah. So just a reminder to people: don't take your rights and privileges
for granted.
because
Yeah.
if you give them up, you rarely get them back. This is a very rare occasion where the people actually got it back,
Yeah.
and largely because of a kind of young revolutionary prince who himself has kind of a sordid background. So
Yeah. Also, he just wants people to watch movies.
why not?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the one nation, well, probably not the one, but one of the few nations losing out on probably the best era of superhero films ever. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just sad for everybody.
It is. It is. Just let him have it.
Next up, Sony's Spider-Man game coming to the PS4 has received a release date. It will hit shelves on September 7th, 2018, and it received some new footage and whatnot, giving more explanation of what's going on and what's in the game. So, if you care, I think it looks cool. I like the Spider-Man games, but I've never been really blown out of the water by any of them. So,
Yeah, there was one Spider-Man game that I actually liked a lot, and this was the rare case in which a video game based on a movie is actually worth a damn.
is it Spider-Man 2?
It is Spider-Man 2.
Everybody likes that game.
Yeah, for one really good reason.
Web slinging.
Web slinging. They nailed that one thing that the other games just didn't quite get right.
Yeah.
And this one, it just did it perfectly. It was so creative.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably a nightmare to code.
Absolutely. But yeah, the game looks impressive. Like graphically, it looks great. The actors they have on it look good. I'm not sure about the cast, like the villain cast so far. We'll see how that develops. But I think it's really cool, and it looks like they're taking things in a very modern, new direction that Spider-Man has needed for a while. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how it is.
There's only one gripe that I have about the game, and that's the design of Spider-Man.
You don't like the white?
It just seems odd. I mean, it does exactly what it's supposed to do, which is to catch your eye from a distance.
Yep.
But there's just something about the way that they incorporated it that just seems way too like it's starting to consume the rest of the costume weirdly.
Yeah, sure. For me, I didn't like it. My first impression when I first saw it, last year or whichever E3 it showed up at.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, I don't know about that one. But over time, I've actually warmed up to it a lot. I actually like it a lot now.
Yeah.
It was a weird adjustment period for me. Yeah. You might see the same thing. You might not. I don't know. But
well, if there's one thing we can count on in a Spider-Man game, it's multiple costumes.
That's true.
Oh my God, close.
Next up, the current screenwriter for the alleged Harley Quinn starring Birds of Prey.
No.
Why? DC, stop.
DC, please stop.
Movie that's in production. Christina Hodson has been tapped for Batgirl screenplay also, following the departure of Joss Whedon, admitting he just didn't have a story for her. And if Joss Whedon can't stick around for your bullshit franchise, you should probably just stop. You should stop trying to make this happen. It's not going to happen. But good luck to Christina Hodson. I hope you can pull it off. I don't think you can in this current universe. I don't think anybody could. But more power to you. I hope you get paid.
I hope that if they actually do manage to go through with that movie, that it just ignores what's come before it.
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
DCEU. I'm hoping and praying. I'm hoping and praying that Shazam does the same thing and just forget everything that came before.
Yep. Just stop.
Just let it go.
We don't need it.
Just let it go.
Next up, due to a busy schedule, Jim Chung will no longer be the artist for the oversized Amazing Spider-Man number 800. Nick Bradshaw will be added in his place. So, if you're looking forward to seeing Jim Chung's artwork, you now have to look forward to Nick Bradshaw instead, which not a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Either way.
I mean,
I'm not wild about either artist, but they do good work. So
it's Spider-Man number 800. While something of a milestone, it's not exactly Action Comics 1000.
Bendis is coming.
No, Bendis is here.
Ding, 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 ding.
The Bendis cannot be unwrung.
God, it's so bad.
Ding, 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 ding.
God, that movie's so horrible. Next up in the news, there's a new Bat Metal video.
Oh my God, it's so metal.
If you're not familiar with the Bat Metal videos, look them up. They're a lot of fun. They're animated clips and cartoons featuring a really goofy version of Batman and his sidekicks, and set to Death Clock.
Which, if you're gonna set Batman to any like actual real fake band, it's Death Clock.
Yeah. So the new one's a lot longer than the old ones and a lot more elaborate. And there's actually like vocal parts in it where they actually speak in like a very heavy Spanish accent.
Yeah, about that.
So it's pretty funny. If you like those videos, look it up.
Oh yeah. It's Bat Metal. Watch it.
Next up, I'm just giving this a shout out because we use them as a great resource every week. The podcast. We use freshcomics.com to read you the new releases every week. It's a fantastic resource. You can find the link on our website, hdbvids.com, to it if you ever forget what it's called. But yeah, freshcomics.com is an amazing resource for fans to look up what's coming to your local comic shops that week and what came before and what's coming up. So use that resource, please. If you're a comic fan, you really want to know what's going on and stay in touch. But they redesigned their website, and it looks really nice. And I like the simpler aesthetic of the previous version a lot more. It runs a lot better than it used to.
Which I think is probably the reason why they redesigned it.
I mean, it used to take forever to load a page. I don't know why. Maybe it just wasn't tuned right, or maybe there just was too many like pages on it that eventually just bogged it down, slowed it down. But it used to take like 10 minutes just to load the page when you included all the pictures. Now it loads instantly. It's real quick.
Oh yeah.
So shout out to the Fresh Comics guys. Don't know who you are, but you do a great job, and I appreciate everything you do.
Yep. Keep it up.
Next up, some sad news. Voice actor and comedian Chuck McNann has passed away at the age of 83 from congestive heart failure.
Oh, no.
He is known in the comic world for voicing The Thing in most of the 1990s Marvel cartoons. He's also famous for voicing the Cocoa Puff mascot and Duckworth on DuckTales.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, sad news there. Heart goes out to you and your family. Well, your family, I suppose.
Yeah, I was gonna, when you mentioned DuckTales, I was gonna do the woo, but then it's like, this is a sad story.
I thought about it, but I was like, that's gonna be really inappropriate, so I'd rather not.
Yeah.
So,
my condolences to the family. He will be missed.
Yep. Next up, the sales numbers for the month of March are out. And overall, the news is not great. Overall, based on year to year, sales are down across comics about 13%, which is pretty significant. And toys have a drastic decrease, although you can probably play that up to video games and Toys R Us going out of business and all these different factors, you know?
Yeah. The children's entertainment landscape is changing.
However, there are some bright notes there. Sales of everything except toys actually increased from last month. So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
I think part of that is because so many delayed things finally came out. And I think another thing is that March has, 3 more days than February?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some of that going on, but I don't think it would account for that much of an increase. So, all the increases across, comics, graphic novels, toys and stuff, overall it averages out to about 4% increase from last month. So that's a good sign. Even though it's down from last year, it's a good sign going forward that it's going up, not down.
Which is what we want.
Marvel Comics ruled the day by a narrow margin, with DC obviously in second place, and Image Comics taking up a solid third place with a little over 10% of the market. So really cool. And this time, Marvel actually won the kind of sales battle without flooding the market with a bunch of nonsense. Usually, Marvel wins, but it's because the volume of what they released is so ridiculously huge compared to what DC released. This time, DC actually released almost the same, a little bit more, but almost the same amount, and got outsold by Marvel. So, good side for Marvel stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure the Black Panther boost helped.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And these are your top 10 comic books by units shipped. Number 1, Dark Knight's Metal, number 6. That makes me sad.
Why is it not Batman White Knight?
It's not that great. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I'm trying not to be too critical. I love Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. It's fine. It's a little dumb, but it's fine. And I like seeing Sandman, so it was cool. They gave Nightwing some good moments in the book. So I give it extra points for that.
And by that you mean extra points for not letting what's his name get his hands on it?
Yeah, Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
Stay away, Jeff. Don't you touch Nightwing. But
you leave my boy alone.
And they give Nightwing probably his coolest outfit ever. And the kind of armor. I think it was one of our comics of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Where he had the full armor. And that was the Dark Knight's Metal tie-in. But
yeah,
the tie-in was a little goofy, but the outfit was really cool. Next up, Doomsday Clock, number 4, is at number 2, which we still need to catch up on.
Yeah, we do.
It hadn't won me over by issue 2 or 3, wherever we stopped at. So we'll see if 4 wins me over. Number 3, Amazing Spider-Man number 797. So that's pretty cool. Number 4, Weapon H number 1.
No.
Yep. The second best-selling Marvel book and the 4th best-selling book overall.
Why?
Maybe it's good. Maybe you're judging a book by the cover, Emery.
Maybe I have good taste and don't need two characters that I like mushed together. God. Oh.
Number 5, Batman number 42. Which I think was the whole like battle thing with Wonder Woman and stuff. That was kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
Number 6 is The Mighty Thor, number 705. So that's pretty impressive. Number 7 is Infinity Countdown, number 1.
Right, Infinity's about to happen.
Yep, so those are about to go through the roof.
Yeah.
Number 8 was Batman number 43, because we know it sells.
Yep.
Number 9 was Oblivion Song by Robert Kirkman. No big surprise there. And number 10 is Batman White Knight, number 6.
Ooh, it made the list.
Yes. But it needs to be higher.
It does.
It should not be number 10. It should be number 1.
It should. That is a number it deserves.
Everybody needs to be reading that book.
Oh, my God.
So that's just some fun statistics for you. And finally, our final segment of the news. Time for Delay Corner. Do.
Oh.
Only 2 this week.
Where's our friend Scoops when you need him?
Only 2 delays this week. Champions number 20 has been delayed 3 weeks and will premiere on May 23rd. And the following issue has also been announced to be delayed an additional week and will premiere on June 20th. No reasons were given for the delays, but I assume it's because the artists are overworked preparing for nonsensical events, like usual.
Yeah.
But that's just me. So if you're a fan of Marvel's Champions, sorry, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer for number 20 and number 21. And that sucks because that's what kills books. It's a terrible business model, and we need to stop it.
Yes. We talk about that all the time. One of these days, they're going to listen.
And that, my friends, is the news.
Oh, wait. I'm getting something through my phone here. Oh. What's that local comic book shop? Oh.
Laughing Ogre?
Yeah,
World's
yeah.
Greatest Comics?
Yeah.
Rat Pack Comics?
Yeah, I'll ask him right now.
Comic Town?
They want to know, what comic books are we hitting up this week?
Well, Emery, I thought you'd never ask. First up from Marvel Comics, we have Avengers number 688. We have...
That is a interesting look.
Which have been on a great art roll, by the way. Every one of those issues have been really solid. Next up, we have Ben Reilly, The Scarlet Spider, number 17. We have Captain America, number 700. So that's probably going to be a collectible issue with a really cool Alex Ross variant. Let's see here.
Add the Venom variant to the list of Venom
Of course.
variants.
There's
that are
Venom
just
variants for
happening.
everything and Captain America variants for everything this week. Next up, Champions, number 19, the one we just addressed.
Yep.
So it's not this issue, but the following issue is delayed. We have Doctor Strange, number 388, which looks like it's still tied into the Damnation event, which is fucking awesome. You need to be reading it.
Yes.
We missed the last few tie-in issues because there's so many, but we're catching up slowly.
Oh yeah.
Next up, we have a big new comic, Domino number 1, coming from Gail Simone, who's one of my favorite comic writers, if not my favorite comic writer in the main market right now. Although Murphy, he makes it hard.
He does. I will say this though, I always have had a soft spot for any covers done by Greg Land. Mostly because he manages to still draw every single person like they're some kind of runway model.
Well, if you like boobs, there's a nice Leafield variant of Domino.
So, thank you,
Boobs.
Liefeld. Oh, and the feet come to a point. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's so Liefeld.
It's almost like a dolphin flipper. Got the flipper foot.
Oh, I wonder if those will ever debut in a Deadpool movie.
Next up, we have Exiles number 1, which looks interesting.
Or if we're
Now,
if I'm
when
being
we
honest,
say Exiles, are these just the terrible characters that they tried to shove into the universe before, and fans were like, "Will you please stop?" And so now they're just Exiles. Because I'm pretty sure that's America, that's Honey Badger, that's Kamala Khan, and what's her name, Ironheart.
I think it might be that. It just might be, let's throw all of these characters that we never got to use at all and throw them in with a weirdly cartoony, like anime cartoony version of Wolverine. It's like
Yeah.
like all of these other humans and then this thing that literally looks like it came out of a comic book.
Well, now I'm looking at the Sayas cover, the variant cover, and now I'm like completely confused because none of these people are who I thought they were.
Right.
Now
I
I'm
think
very
that
confused.
that's the thing that we're going to be taking away from this is that it's going to be confusing, probably from top to bottom.
Next up, we have Falcon, number 7. We have Old Man Logan, number 38. We have Spider-Man Cross Deadpool, number 31. We have Star Wars Darth Vader, number 14, with a pretty cool Sinister cover where he's just kind of soaking in a hot bath.
I have so many issues with that image.
We have Star Wars Thrawn, number 3. We have Thanos, number 18, which I think might be the last issue. I might be wrong. It might be 19, but I'm pretty sure it's the last issue. We have The Despicable Deadpool, number 298. We have The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, your favorite, number 31. We have Venomized, number 2. And apparently they're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Venom, which is crazy to me because it makes me feel really old. And probably makes you feel even older.
Yes.
You old man.
I am. Wait. Venom came out in 1983? Is that right?
I don't know. It's Wikipedia. It's what it's listed as.
Yeah, look it up. Or 88.
1988.
1988. Wow.
First appearance as the alien costume in 1984.
Oh, so that
And then
symbiote is technically older than me.
its first full appearance was 1988.
Oh.
So yeah, it's been around for a while.
So I am
Longer than I thought.
wow. Ugh. So old.
So there's some fun facts for you to make you feel old.
Yep.
We have your Gambit cover for X-Men Red number 3. I really like the cover for number 2 that had Nightcrawler on it.
I mean, that one was cool enough.
That one looks okay, but I'm not sure I like the white background. I think it would have looked cooler with like a black background or something.
Yeah.
Would have made it stand out a little better.
I'm worried.
Uh-oh.
I'm so worried.
Next up, from IDW Publishing, we have Back to the Future, Tales from the Time Train, number 4. We have Bubba Hotep and the Cosmic Bloodsuckers, number 1. Which looks like Elvis in space.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
We have DuckTales.
Woo!
Thanks.
Yeah, it took me a while to get that.
Number 8. See, now we can do it.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Duckworth.
Rest in peace.
We have Gears of War, The Rise of Rom, number 4.
The rise of that thing that I have in my computer?
We have Goosebumps, Download and Die, number 2. We have Haunted Horror, number 33. We have Optimus Prime, number 18.
Roll out.
We have Rom and the Micronauts, number 4. We have Sonic the Hedgehog, number 2. Again, really good, fun comic for kids.
Again, gotta go fast.
We have Stretch Armstrong and the Flex Fighters, number 3.
Who asked for this again?
Marketing.
I guess.
We have the Gabriel Rodriguez book, Sword of Ages, number 3. Really thought I love him as an artist because of his work on Lock and Key, and the art in that book is really great, but I feel like he's just doing way too much.
Yeah.
But good luck to it. I hope it does well. Next up, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, number 81.
Holy shit, boy.
Really like that Pied Piper cover there with the Watcher cover. We have the October Faction, Supernatural Dreams, number 2. We have The One, number 3.
That's confusing.
Guessing that's not the Jet Li one.
Different one.
And that wraps up IDW.
All right.
From DC Comics. Now, I feel like this can't possibly be out this week, but it must be. Action Comics, number 1000, 80 Years of Superman, the big event that's happening. Apparently it's this week, but I felt like we hadn't gotten 99 yet, so...
Right.
Maybe I just missed something a week or something, but it looks like it's out this week. So look forward to that. It's a big celebratory issue with a bunch of, new covers and variants and posters, and everything's celebrating Superman and his contribution to the world. We have Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, number 21, which, if not ending that issue, is ending very soon. So if you like that book, pick it up. And of course, all of these issues have Superman variants, as you'd expect.
Of course.
From Detective Comics, we have number 978. We have Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, number 42. We have Immortal Men, number 1. Finally, after being delayed for 5 months, 6 months?
It better be fucking worth it.
I hope it's good, man. Because I'll be really disappointed if it's not.
They've got one shot at this.
And again, illustrated by Jim Lee, so please be good. We have Justice League of America, number 28. We have New Superman and the Justice League of China, number 22. It looks like it's just Chinese versions of the Justice League. We have Red Hood and the Outlaws, number 21. Now, we consider this for Comic of the Week until I realized his arm, the one holding the gun, is way too low.
Yeah.
There's either some stretchy arm going on, or his arm is coming out of his groin.
Or maybe he has a little person holding it for him.
Well, impressive. Next up, we have Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, number 92. This is the kitty one. We have Scooby Apocalypse, number 24.
Ooh.
With a variant where, was it Velma? No, Daphne. Is that Daphne?
I can't tell because it looks like a lumberjill.
She looks jacked.
Oh my god.
Ready to wreck shit. The last of Scooby-Doo. That's what it is. Next up, we have Sideways, number 3.
I don't know when Sideways number 2 happened, but
yeah,
that's whatever.
We need to catch up because that first issue is pretty good. We have Suicide Squad, number 39. We have Supergirl, number 20. We have The Flash, number 44. We have Titans, number 22. We have Trinity, number 21, with a really, really great Bill Shankowitz cover, which I'm really regretting that we didn't give the cover or the variant of the week, but I digress. It's really good, though. We give Bill Shankowitz enough variants and covers of the week, though, so he's got plenty.
Yes, he does.
He won't cry about losing this one, I don't think. We have Wonder Woman, number 44, and that wraps up DC. From Image Comics, we have Crew, number 1. We have Deadly Class, number 33. We have Dry Country, number 2. We have Eternal Empire, number 8. We have Gideon Falls, number 2. We have number 1 with a bullet, number 6. We have Oblivion Song, number 2. We have Prism Stalker, number 2. We have Rose, number 10. We have Sleepless, a book we've been keeping up with, number 5. We have The Beauty, number 21. We have The Dead Hand, number 1. And we have Verses, number 3. So, a few good ones in there from Image this week. From Titan Books, we have Assassin's Creed Origins, number 2. We have Atlas and Axis, number 4. We have Minky Woodcock, The Girl Who Handcuffed Houdini, number 4. We have Sea of Thieves, number 2, for that game release. We have Super Mansion, number 1.
Oh, that's funny.
We have The Season of the Snake, number 1. From Boom Studios, we have Adventure Time Comics, number 22. We have Dodge City, number 2. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Or Dodge a City?
You have Goka Power Rangers, number 1.
Oh, yeah.
We have RoboCop, Citizen's Arrest, number 1. Now, I don't know if that's an actual number 1 or just a bunch of SDCC variants. I'm guessing variants, but whatever. We have The Planet of the Apes, Ursus, number 4. And that will wrap up Boom. From Dynamite Entertainment, we have Barbarella, number 5, with as many boob variants as you'd expect.
Sounds about right.
And we have Legendary Red Sonja, number 3, with kind of neat Benitez variant cover. I don't understand why he's doing variant covers, because he needs to be finishing Lady McCarricker.
And I'm sure he will, when he gets to it.
From Dark Horse Comics, we have American Gods, My Ansel, number 2. We have Resident Alien, number 1, Alien in New York. And we have Tomb Raiders, Survivor's Crusade, number 4. And finally, from Vertigo, we have Eternity Girl, number 2. And that is everything coming to your local comic book shops
Again, please support your local comic book shops.
and digital devices this week. Now it's time to hand out the prestigious, nay life-changing award of cover and variant cover of the week. First up, for our cover of the week, we award it to Marvel's Avengers, number 688, cover illustrated by Mark Brooks. Now, again, the covers that have been coming out of this title for the past several weeks or issues have been great.
Yeah.
Really solid books. They haven't really always won. If they've won at all, I'm not sure. Let me look. Nope. But I can confirm that they have come damn close a few times. So it's great that Mark Brooks and whoever else has been working on these books has really done their due diligence with these covers. And this one's just really great. It's Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and this kind of like circus poster almost, like old school Barnum and Bailey's like circus poster art style, which I am a sucker for. Every time I see these like very elaborate, circus poster-esque, styles, I really love it. And then you see Wasp there. You see what I think is the Vision at the bottom. And you got Iron Man and War Machine at the bottom. And then you got the symbolism of Thor's hammer and Captain America's shield tied into everything. You see like little hidden characters like the Hulk in the top right corner. And you see Hawkeye in the top left corner. It's so detailed, so ornate, and so beautiful. And I really hope they don't ruin it with a big barcode over the front. I'll be very disappointed if they put a big barcode over the front, because it is such a great looking cover. The colors are great. The aesthetic is great. The vibe it's going for is great. The detail, the level of detail and dedication is great. Like,
This is a perfect example of why the barcode should be on the back.
yes, we say this all the time. Some books are doing it, thankfully.
Yeah, it's slowly catching on.
I'm trying to remember. I know Image does it for pretty much all of its books. I want to say DC did it recently. I'm trying to remember which books it was, though.
DC did it for, or they're still doing it for Doomsday Clock.
Doomsday Clock, yeah. Yep. So Doomsday Clock has been doing it, and I wish every comic would just put the barcode on the back, standardize it. There's no need
Right.
for it to be on the front. No need whatsoever. Like, if it's bagged and boarded, they can put a little sticker on the fucking bag to name the
Right.
price to whoever they're selling it to.
Or simply ring it up before they put it in the bag.
Yes. They're very simple solutions here.
Right.
You don't need the barcode on the front. Please stop doing that. But this one, I hope they didn't, because the cover art is so beautiful. And if you put a barcode on there, you couldn't put a barcode anywhere on that page without obstructing an important detail or a cool aspect of the art. And I'm
Yeah.
guessing they're going to put it right over Iron Man's face there in the bottom left corner.
Yeah. If what we've seen from Marvel's barcode placement is any indication, that's going to be where it goes.
Yeah. So I hope that's not the case, because it is a beautiful cover. And again, big congratulations to Mark Brooks for doing an awesome job and winning our cover of the week. Now, next up, our variant cover of the week. We debated hotly on this one.
Yeah, we did.
Like I said, I really love that Shankwitz cover.
Yeah, I know you do.
Featuring Wonder Woman, but we do give it to Shankwitz a lot.
Yeah.
So we went ahead and went with what Emery thought was the stronger option, which is certainly a great option.
Oh, yeah.
From David Finch and Danny Mickey, we have the Flash number 44 variant cover. And it's one of the few variants that isn't featuring Superman heavily, along with the Shankwitz cover, of course.
Yeah, which
But-
if there was anything to take away from these variants that were happening over at DC for this particular week, it's that we're really excited about Superman. We're really all about,
As we
just-
should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Superman's great. Just as long as you don't look at the one that's in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Or a mustache.
yeah. Which someone with a $500 computer managed to do it better. Just saying.
Yeah.
But this cover. Back to this cover. This cover is it makes me think of everything that I think of when it comes to the Flash.
Yeah.
And that is Flash is a runner. He's always in a very dynamic pose.
Sweet LED lines.
Oh yeah, sweet LED lines like coming off a suit.
That's how you know he generates electricity.
Oh yeah, there's literally like nothing that could power that suit except for just his body. and
Those abs, man.
yeah, his body is generating so much power right now. Oh my god. There's
But-
literally electricity arcing off of him.
Absolutely. And this does something that I kind of always gripe about the Flash covers for. We
Yeah.
very rarely give the award to a Flash cover, and I think it's just because Flash is always drawn so generically, because the nature of his power makes it so that you probably shouldn't be seeing him.
Yes.
And then when they do try to frame it in a way that you can see him clearly, it's always in like a ridiculous, like chaotic, like incident where it's, you know, like the old corny style where there's like a gorilla in the background throwing stuff and there's like 6 characters here doing stupid things that don't matter. And then he's like doing a generic running pose towards the spectator or, you know, running away scared of something, you know, like
I mean,
this one actually shows like a really cool, like dynamic, impressive looking Flash and really like exhibits the power he exudes, as you should.
Yeah, I think one of the other things to glean from this cover is how they've depicted his face. Because if there's one thing that I've learned from reading Flash comics is that the only way that you can tell a lot of these speedsters apart is their character.
Yeah.
And out of all of them,
Or the red hair cut out in the top.
because that's aerodynamic.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the one distinct thing about this that makes it very obviously Barry Allen is that he's serious, he looks purposeful, he looks like there is something for him to do. It's not like he's Wally, who's lighthearted and a little goofy. It's not like this is secretly Reverse Flash where he's got some like evil smirk. It's like you can immediately tell who's under that mask.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, it's a great cover overall. The anatomy looks great. The character looks awesome. The
Oh
colors.
my god, the detailing of the abs.
Yes,
My god.
so many abs. The cover's just awesome. I don't know what else to say. So great job, David Finch and Danny Mickey. You guys have made a wonderful work of art for the variant of the week. And now, for our new friends out there, this is the part of the show where we each discuss a topic of our choosing about the world of comics. Emery, what is our topic? Trick question, 'cause I have the topic.
Yes. A topic that I thought would be very on point to talk about given what you just finished reading.
Experienced.
Yes. Which, man, I am so curious as to whether or not I should read it myself.
I mean, I feel like you need to just to have the context for what is going to happen going forward. But that being said, and the new aspects of Nth Metal, which is apparently the focus of the Terrific storyline and a handful of other things going on in the DC universe, so...
I'm not sure whether or not that sells me on continuing to read Off-Brand Fantastic Four, or...
Which is good.
Yeah.
As much as we rip on it for being a blatant rip-off.
Right.
It's still good.
It's taking a dynamic that exists and doing something slightly different with it, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Also, Mr. Terrific, one, needs a different name. Two, has needed a team where he's the lead for quite some time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's great that Mr. Terrific gets this time to shine. But our topic this week is canon issues. Specifically, in this case, we're going to be referencing the Metal event, which, I've gone through, so you have a general understanding of what's been going on.
Oh, yeah.
But I just wanted to bring up this topic because I feel like Marvel and DC in particular have a consistent problem with managing their canon, whether it's making sure that everybody is clear which version we're dealing with, whether it's pre-Flashpoint, post-Flashpoint, New 52, post-New 52, prior to New 52. What is going on? Who the fuck are these people? Is it Old Man Logan? Is it Modern Logan? Is it Dead Logan? Is it Girl Logan? Is it Young Logan? Is it Honey Badger? Who the fuck are we dealing with? Like,
how many claws do they have?
Is it Dakin? Like, go fuck yourselves.
Is it fucking Weapon H? You motherfuckers, stop.
But I feel like there is just a gross misconduct with canon, and I think it's creating way more problems, especially for new readers, than entertainment value.
Yeah.
And we can look straight at Batman White Knight as an example of a book that, while it might kind of wink back at like previous canon, like including some of the old Batmobiles and like cool surprises like that, and addressing well-known characters in a new way that we didn't expect, I think it thrives off not being just like reliant on all this nonsensical canon that keeps occurring, not because there's a real good story reason to do this, but because they want to sell event books and event book tie-ins. And what happens when you have these big world-shattering, earth-shaking events is you affect every character in your continuum, in your continuity, and really just kind of throw all the future creators and artists out to the pasture to deal with it and play cleanup for the next year until your next big dumb event occurs. And I think it's never been more apparent than, well, maybe I shouldn't say never. Convergence was pretty bad, but I don't think it's ever been more apparent than recently with this Dark Knight Metal event, which again, to me, you have to absorb a lot of comic book silliness and a lot of like leaps of faith and logic.
Yeah.
And it's just meh in the end, but it's just so hard to digest, even for a well-versed a fanboy like I am. Like I am unapologetically a DC fanboy. I like the DC characters. I like the DC world. I like the scape. I like the current writers and staff that they utilize. Although we'll see with Bendis.
Yeah.
But
the aesthetic generally.
Even I am having trouble digesting all of these events and all of this nonsense. And now they're having it where they have like several events occurring almost back to back, if not at the same time, usually because of delays. We have the new era of DC heroes being pushed at the same time that we have the post-metal that just ended.
Yeah.
A post-metal No Justice event with Scott Snyder that's going to be occurring, I think, starting next month. And it's so much to digest and get a handle on and to understand, because you read these issues and like every single page has a little reference box. Reference a Batwing number 42.
Oh,
Reference
no.
Dark Metal tie-in Nightwing number 38.
No.
Reference. It feels like, I'm sure I'm exaggerating a little, but it feels like every panel has some kind of annotation to tell you, hey, there's this thing you gotta look up. There was literally a little box, I think in issue number 3 or 4, where I'm guessing Scott Snyder put it in there. Reference 90s. Reference the 90s for context.
No.
And I was like, what is a current comic book fan, especially a new one, supposed to fucking do with this bullshit? Like, it's so alienating for new fans, especially, and you can see
that's disgusting.
And you can
actually
you can see the sales numbers just declining and declining and declining. I think there's a lot of reasons for it. We've talked about delays almost every single week because of the poor business model of writing comic books paycheck to paycheck, where you don't have a finished story and you alter it because of social media's influence. And the writers, are either taking on too many projects or they're just being lazy and not finishing the project ahead of time, so the artists have to wait for them to do their part, which takes way longer.
and it just further perpetuates the like, it's a problem that keeps accentuating that it is a problem.
Yeah, it's a terrible business model, and you have all of these factors coming in and putting all of that burden usually on your local comic book shops, which I think is a horrible business practice. Your main source of physical income comes from these shops, not only selling your books, but advertising them, creating communities for you in the local spaces. Like here in Columbus, we have a great comic community built on local businesses like Laughing Ogre, like World's Greatest Comics, like Rat Pack Comics, like Comic Town. All of these are great hubs in Columbus, Ohio, where we have a great, awesome comic community, especially with such a young population comparatively, because of the university and everything. So it really frustrates me when we have all of these big, heavy Canon, like, focused nonsense stories that get so warped and nonsensical and have so many annotations for you to do research on. I shouldn't have to do, 10 issues worth of homework just to enjoy one story. It's nonsense. And I feel like every issue of Dark Knight's Metal had that problem where they had annotations for at least 3 books, if not more. And like some of them were just blatantly nonsensical. Like, look up the 90s, because there's a part where you see Electric Blue Superman, and you see a yes, and you see a Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns version of Superman, full of armor and whatnot and weapons that he stole from the Frank Miller Batman in this dark universe. Like,
this is the kind of thing that if I saw it in a movie, I would get up, walk out of the theater, and laugh the entire fucking way.
But that's the level of like I get that it wasn't like crucial to the main plot, which is why I still say, it's a meh book. But like for new comic fans that are trying to like figure out what the hell you're doing,
Right.
it's so confusing and so alienating and so frustrating. Like not even talking about how good the characters themselves are, which in a lot of cases they aren't. I think really out of the cast of this issue, Wonder Woman was probably the best one. Like Wonder Woman and Nightwing were probably the most likable characters. Like everybody else is just not representative of a really well fleshed out dynamic character.
That
Yeah.
just sounds like what everyone's going to say about the DCU in like 10 years.
Yeah, pretty much. I hope it doesn't take that long. Please stop. Too much cocaine, man.
Quit.
Warner
Right.
Brothers needs to stop riding the lightning.
Don't ride the lightning. Lightning burns. Stop.
Stop. But yeah, there's a lot of issues. Again, it's not. I'm just picking on Dark Knight's Metal because I just read it and it's very fresh. But it's not exclusively the problem. I mean, you can look back to like the big overwhelming events of Convergence and Divergence, even Flashpoint to a smaller degree. Even though I enjoyed Flashpoint, but because I think it did give an anchor for a fresh start and wasn't just combining a bunch of nonsense because they were apologetic to the handful of social media people that were angry about it.
Yeah, no, that was actually just an interesting story.
Yeah. So there are dynamics there, and I'm not saying that events themselves are bad. I'm not saying that maintaining a canon is bad or having a handful of books that are, in a concrete canon. Not every book can be a Batman White Knight.
Right.
But not
as
every
much as we all wish.
Yeah, not every book can be a Mr. Miracle-esque title. Not every title can be an Old Man Hawkeye on the Marvel side, Those are isolated incidences and worlds and characters. I get that. I understand that.
You can't always have a Superman Red Sun.
But we have huge problems when we're confusing timelines and it's so vague which ones are relevant and which ones are not. In the Dark Knight's Metal one, they were addressing timelines in the Batman universe from before Flashpoint. They were addressing timelines all through Scott Snyder's run. So all the Court of Owls, like they make it direct. The Court of Owls has a really important influence in Dark Knight's Metal. They talk about Endgame. They talk about him going back in the past prior to Flashpoint when Darkseid's Omega beams shot him into the distant past and he became a caveman for like 12 issues or whatever while Nightwing was Batman.
Oh my god.
Like that is a key plot point for Dark Knight's Metal if that gives you any idea of what to expect.
God, what is happening? It's like being shot by Omega beams and turned into a caveman is almost about as silly as someone saying Martha in the middle of the third act.
I liked it. That's the one gripe I actually don't have. But I'll let that rest for now. We can make that another topic.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah,
Martha is definitely its own topic.
I don't want to beat up these creators too much because I understand what Scott Snyder was trying to do. He was trying to give like a wink and a nod and like a love letter type thing to the audience that have been keeping up with all of this nonsensical canon and trying to keep things together.
Like for all of you faithful fans who have been following this entire time.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be, as you were saying, winks, nods, nudges. Like, oh, remember this thing that you probably read. Well, it all is actually somehow magically coming together.
Yeah. So
which sounds like it would be fun if you had been consistently buying their products
for about 2 decades.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot to ask. So what do you think, especially from the Marvel side? I'd be interested in hearing your take. I think it's a huge problem, and I wish they would just stop. I don't care if they have to reboot and just commit to it for 10 years, 5 years, whatever, but don't try to force all of these previous canonical events that don't make sense into the current one that, is trying to make sense. And because it's just so alienating for new comic fans and potential fans, and it's just hurting your business and hurting your art form.
There was a comic book released maybe a year ago, maybe a little longer than that, probably longer than that, where I saw an image of Miles Morales about to impale Captain America. And lo and behold, this was actually not a reference to something, but a foretelling of a potential thing that was going to happen. And this is hilariously kind of what... it's kind of what happened with Dark Knight's Metal, but in the reverse. This was... for anyone who's been like staying current with Marvel, you probably know that there's this little thing called Civil War that happened.
Yep. Which one are we referencing?
The fact that that's even a question kills me inside. Because there should only be one. There should only ever have been one Civil War. Yeah, it was the second one. It was the fucking second one. The second one where we decided to, instead of relating to a bunch of things that have been happening, we're actually going to maybe foretell the future. All of these things that you can kind of look forward to and make that just an issue. It's like, how long do I have to wait till I find out why and for what good reason it would look like the newest Spider-Man would try to kill Captain America?
Because he's a Nazi?
Again, realizing that that's a thing kind of kills me inside, because there is...
I'm sorry, buddy.
Like, this isn't Convergence in the reverse. This is Dark Knight's Metal in the reverse. This is like all of these things that are going to be happening in these other comics. Get ready. But this is all a backdrop for a story that I'm going to say is also meh and doesn't make any sense. I think the only good thing that's come out of it was what's honestly a throwaway line in the newest event that's happening called Damnation. Yeah.
Which is a good event.
Yeah.
And isn't too reliant on prior context, really.
No.
You know that some shit went down in Las Vegas? That's all you need to know.
Right. Some shit happened.
Sold.
Like, some shit happened. Stephen Strange was like, fuck that. I'm going to fix all this.
Yeah.
And there's like the ramifications of using your bullshit magic to do something that no one has any right or any responsibility doing.
Yeah.
Like resurrecting an entire town. Yeah, read the book. Read it. It's amazing. It actually might get me to start reading Iron Fist again.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that good.
We need Blade.
It might actually get them to start making Blade comics again. Why haven't we been making Blade comics? Because he's good at his job. That's
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair,
That's
dog.
pretty fair. With that said, the concept of continually making events, big dumb events that keep pulling and referencing from all of these other titles that have come before it, that is quite possibly the most alienating thing you can do to someone who is trying to get in to comics, which I thought was the goal of making comics.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
I mean, they were, again, the Dark Knight's Metal thing, referencing the Batman not dying, but going back in time and becoming a cave Batman for like issues and issues and issues as he found a way to come back to the prior time is ridiculous. And there's no basis that this version of Batman is that version. There's no basis for it whatsoever. There has never been anything that indicated that prior canon from, 10 years ago now, is relevant in any way, shape, or form. And it has nothing to do with Scott Snyder. So what what is even the point?
Right.
It was just a stupid reason to include a dumb plot point about some tribes of man, and in order to activate the Dark Universe. And it's just so alienating for everybody involved. I mean, if you want to include your particular run of canon in there, that's fine. That works.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And assuming this is the new 52 version of Batman, and another Batman didn't take his place during Convergence like Superman. I mean, that's a thing that happened, and it's very confusing. So none of the new 52 canon for Superman is relevant, but all the new 52 canon for Batman is apparently relevant. So again, just nonsensical canon moves that just isn't managed well and is constantly changed and manipulated in a way that doesn't make sense, not to serve a story purpose or a world context purpose, but exclusively to sell a few big budget books and tie-ins.
Yeah,
because your bad business practicing is destroying your business. So
right,
and you got to keep doing this just to keep yourself afloat.
That's the thing that I'm always going to argue, that we've been arguing this whole time, is that there needs to be a complete restructuring of the business model to where we have full crafted stories before we draw anything.
Yes. Like, again, I say this every time. It wouldn't be that hard to commission a staff, say, writer A, artist B, art, colorist C, letterist D. You guys are working on this project or this group of Bat characters or this group of super characters or whatever. You're on the Watchstorm books, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Like, this is yours. Here's an initial commission for you to live on and a salary for being on the staff, obviously. And then we will give you a percentage of the final sales, make a well-refined, finished book, and then make natural points to cut each one so we can release it in issue form, just like a TV show or anything else that is episodic.
Right.
And
right.
then
episodic writing is pretty easy.
We'll give you a rough deadline, so try to stick to it. And remember, this is your only focus, so don't do any other nonsensical side projects. That's why we sign contracts.
Yes.
Exclusivity contracts.
I thought that was the point.
Yeah, me too. Apparently not. And focus on this. Make a well-refined, finished story for these characters or these books or whatever. Create a world if you need to, in the new relaunch or whatever the case may be. Make a 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 24 issues. I don't care. Make an outline for at least one story, and then once that outline's finished and everything's starting to work on, you can work on the next one if you want to, or you can ask to work on a different project, whatever the case may be. And then we'll release it like we normally do, but without the nonsense delays that drive everybody crazy and kill books.
Right.
And without the influence of social media, people reacting to one thing or another that ends up watering down the entire story, like we talked about in episode 26, I think.
Yeah.
With the editor-in-chief at Marvel, the prior one, talking about all the issues they had with often Twitter people harassing creators and making them so insecure that they completely changed their story and watered it down. And so in the end, it was just nothing,
Yeah, I think there's literally nothing more neutering to a story than reactionary writing.
Yeah, it's tough, and I get it. This is the new age, and we're still kind of adjusting to it, but it's such a bad business practice, and it is a large part of the root problem here, not only with the canonical issues and the nonsense, like trying to tie in way too much and force the burden of knowledge and evidence and storytelling on the reader instead of putting the burden on the person trying to tell a story,
right,
which is what they're being paid to do, So I think there's a lot of things that need to be changed in this industry, particularly on DC and Marvel's side. I mean, there's a little bit of it in the other ones. I'm looking at like kind of Dark Horse a little bit, and a little bit of some of the Image books, although obviously not all because they're not a tied-in universe. Valiant has that problem pretty bad.
Yeah, they do.
But DC and Marvel are the big ones, and they're the ones that need to be the most aware that it's a problem, because they're the ones that stand as the bright burning icons for this industry, and they're the ones that, whether we like it or not, dominate the industry, each controlling about 30% of the industry in the market. There's about a third DC, a third Marvel, and then the rest is independent, titles and books with a prominence for Image.
I think there definitely needs to be some leading by example.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know it's tough, but I think it needs to be done. And just like every other thing where there's, big heads of the industry, like, say a Microsoft and an Apple situation. Yeah, sure, there's Linux, but most people are not using Linux. Most people are not dependent on Linux in their advertising. It's more of a kind of underground thing with a significant market, but not really controlling interest. It's up to Microsoft and Apple to stand out and do the right thing when it comes to things like government interference and investigation, unlocking iPhones, for example, for government, control or whatever,
Yeah.
I think Apple did a great thing by saying, no, if you want to break into it, you can break into it. There's no legal statute for us to do this, and we are not going to do that to our customers, regardless of what the investigation is, because they bought this product from us with the idea that we would protect their information and whatever else. And the same thing with Microsoft, as it, with great power comes great responsibility, and
Thank you, Uncle Ben.
And it's just something you have to face when you're the head of the industry, and particularly the head of an industry that is failing.
Yeah.
And if you don't want this art form to die, especially in its physical form, I'm sure there'll always be webcomics wherever people can express themselves. But if you don't want this great and wonderful medium that we all enjoy and invest in to die, you need to change your business practice. You need to change your continuity. Just mismanagement, I would say.
Yeah. The general approach to storytelling needs to be one where the focus is more on the quality of the story and not so much the what can be construed as a seemingly desperate attempt to always have money coming in.
Yeah. And again, I feel like we always feel like we're being a little too harsh and a little too cynical. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there still, especially if, again, from the non-canonical stuff.
Yeah.
But it's these big events that are really drowning the industry and alienating any potential for future investment and new fans.
How long did it take for you to even think about approaching Dark Knight's metal?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think Scott Snyder just wanted to tell one big last epic tale, and I totally get it. But I think there's a lot of other hands in that pot that were just throwing in their own ingredients and making things way too convoluted and way too frustrating for even a well-weathered fan, as opposed to even, a new fan or a fan that wants to get into this stuff, because it looks cool, the cover art looks cool and the story sounds neat. I want to really hop in, and then it's just bombarded with nonsensical canon from inconsistent timelines that don't actually make any sense because of several big wig events that may have happened, may not have happened, depending on which character you're dealing with. And it's just it's very frustrating as a fan and as a person that wants this industry to be preserved for as long as possible, because once these industries are gone, it's really hard to bring them back.
Yeah.
So let's try to prevent them from going the way of the dodo bird and keep them around for a long time to come for everybody to enjoy.
And one of the ways that we can more specifically tell them like the kind of entertainment that we enjoy is with our wallets. Like if Batman White Knight was the #1 selling comic, that would speak volumes as to what it is that they should be putting out. Like
Absolutely.
the types of stories that they should
Absolutely.
be focusing on.
Yes, I 100% agree. And the book deserves it, quite frankly.
It does.
I would say similar things about things like Mr. Miracle and Old Man Hawkeye. There are great, wonderful books
Those
that
should
avoid all
definitely
the
be,
nonsense that's going on
yeah,
canonically.
Those should definitely be in the top 10 best-selling.
Well,
It just should.
I think that's a good place to end it for now. Before we get into the outro here, I want to give a big shout out to our first executive level contributor.
Hey.
We received a very generous contribution from a fan and friend, Will Beasley. Shout out to his life insurance services. If you're looking for a very well-informed and veteran to help you handle your life insurance and future finances, he's probably your guy to look for. It's not an advertisement. He's just a friend. I'm giving him a shout out. But he contributed to us at the executive level, privately, not through Patreon this time, but he will receive all the usual benefits that are listed on our tiers on patreon.com/hitthebooks. So he's going to receive a credit here at the end, obviously, as an executive producer for us. He's going to receive a personalized thank you letter from Emery and I. And he's going to receive a volume of our choosing this month that we will personalize for him based on what I know about his tastes. And so look forward to that, Will, if you're listening or watching. You got something coming to you pretty soon here. So
Oh, yeah.
thank you so much, Will, for your executive level contribution. And thank you to all other Patreon or otherwise contributors to our special show here. Like I said, we got a lot more announcements and some hopefully future growth coming up here for our community and our show. And we hope you're looking forward to it as much as we are.
Oh, yeah.
Well, folks, I think that wraps up another mediocre edition of Hit the Books podcast.
Mediocre.
Thank you all for sticking with us. And if you like what you hear, be sure to hit like and subscribe and follow us on your podcast services of choice and social networks. We're on Twitter at HTBvids. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/hitthebooks. Our website is htbvids.com, where you can find links to all of our social media and the Fresh Comics .us service there, and all of our broadcasting services, whether it be Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, and any ones in the future like SoundCloud and whatever else comes up. We'll see. Again, there's some behind the scenes models that you have to subscribe to, so it's a little finicky. And again, we have our Patreon there, patreon.com/hitthebooks. If you want to support independent content and good content, feel free to go and check that out. It would really go a long way to helping us out and help us at least break even and keep the show running for as long as we can here.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I'm missing a big announcement. We thanked our great contributor, Will Beasley. What else? Is there anything else? Am I missing anything? Read Batman White Knight.
Yeah, again, read that book.
Again, not being paid to advertise it. It's just that good. You need to read it.
Yeah, simply.
And please, sound off in the comments and all the reviews and stuff. And let us know what things you think we could improve, what things you really dig. Any responses to our discussion? Do you think we got something wrong? Do you think all this event stuff and canonical mishaps are okay for the industry? Do you think the business model is functional? Please hit us up on Twitter, on Facebook, on the YouTube comments, wherever you so choose. And remember, if you'd like to contact us privately for any kind of reviews or promotions like we had recently, or just fan letters or fan-submitted topics of discussion for the podcast, you can write to us at hitthebooksvids, VIDS, hitthebooksvids, all one word, at gmail.com. And you can email us and send us your comment or your question or any kind of behind-the-scenes promotional stuff you may or may not want to do, or reviews. So, I think that wraps everything up. Thank you all for watching. We will see you next week.
On Hit the Books.